You have volunteered to be facilitators, and this is to really help people prepare, because a facilitator is a question asker. And it's a little bit different than maybe the typical leadership style that you might be familiar with. A facilitative leader needs to listen to what's being said and needs to get people to participate. So we have 3 steps that we're going to use. So you'll start out with group introductions. That's the first thing. And you need to hear from each person in the group. You need their name, their school and grade, and then one problem young people face. And so as a facilitator, you could say yourself first. So my name is Courtney. I went through my master's degree in anthropology at Oregon State University. And one problem young people face is how fake people can be sometimes. So when I say how fake people could be, we will have a volunteer scribe in your group. You just write down exactly what people say. And then you go around and you hear from the next person, the next person, the next person. And then at the end, if they're like, oh, wait, you could say, is there anything else that's missing? You could get a couple more. And we'll have the circles already pre-prepared for the groups, so you'll have them. So once you're done with that, you hear from each person, then you move on to step 2. You'll have a big roll of paper, you'll roll it out on the ground, and you'll get someone to volunteer to lay down on the paper. And then somebody else draws around them. And on the inside of the body, you answer this question. And so everybody can just gather around. You'll have a bunch of markers in your plastic bag. Give as many young people markers as possible. And write, how can I help myself? So whatever, and people can just even write it down, right? But some people will be shy, so you'll need to say, what are other things we do? Okay, how can I help others? And you do that all on the outside of the body. And there's no wrong answer on any of these, okay? Then this one is the last one. And this is after you've already done both of these, and both of these you just write down whatever people say. This one is our Speak Up, Stand Up, Save a Life Solution Circle. And so on this side, what are some key issues we need to focus on? And your hint for this one is to just look at some stuff from the Earth brainstorm right there. What are some ideas? Maybe there's a couple things that came up twice, or maybe 3 times, right? Or maybe there's something that people now, when they look at all that, oh no, this is a key issue to focus on. So you're just writing down maybe like 3 key issues from that Earth that you feel like people really are going along with, that there's some energy behind. Then you go over to this side. What can we do? Hint. That's from the body brainstorm. It could be from either the inside or the outside. What are some key things that we can do? Then on the bottom, what are resources and people to involve? There's already going to be a bunch of adults milling around. We're going to have community action officers. We're going to have different people from the community. So thinking about who are those people at our schools and our communities, who are the people, adults, even other young people that could help us. And then what are some key next steps when we go back to our schools? What are some actions we want to take? What are some things that we want to do? This is generally it. 2 flip charts and a big body chart that you're going to fill out. So these are some hints and clues on how to be a good facilitator. 1, you got to set up the space. We're going to be in the Grand Canyon University stadium, right? And stadiums are not necessarily that good for like group conversation, like today, how we set up in a half circle so we could see each other. So you're gonna have to pretend like if you're in that stadium seating, like don't let anybody sit in the middle, and that's where you put your papers and then go around. But last year, people went up in the other areas and they went down on the floor. So if your group stays together, you can find a new place. And ultimately, sitting on the floor is the best idea. So try to find a place on the floor, make sure your group's all together. That way we can do these activities. So you gotta find this space where everybody can see each other, right? It's really about everybody being able to make eye contact. Second thing is, you gotta hear from everyone on the group introductions. Can't skip anyone. That's your biggest job as a facilitator. You gotta make sure that you didn't skip the shy person, right? There's certain types of personalities that really like to talk in groups. There's other people that are like, I'm just gonna keep on not making eye contact and maybe she will like forget to call on me, right? So typically what I do is I ask who wants to start off and then I say, hey, do you wanna pass to the right or to the left, right? And then you just kind of going around in a circle and it prepares you because you're like, okay, I know that my turn is coming up. And it's just 4 things that they have to say, right? But hear from each person. It's a way to break the ice. Another thing, These are some fancy words, but I'll give an example. Affirm participation, neutral on content. Affirm participation. That means I want to bring in your participation, but I want to be neutral on what you say, right? So if you say something, even for this, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Oh yeah. I'm like, thank you. Oh yeah, oh, psh. So I just like built you guys up and I'm like acting like I'm not connecting with your idea, right? So, and you can't necessarily say yes to everything. You can say yes to each person, right? But you just want to be neutral on what they say. So be careful about saying like a good idea. Every idea is a good idea, right? And then you'll pretty much sound like a broken record if you're saying good idea to everybody. So it's just better to be like, thank you. You want to encourage an entire range of perspectives. You got to ask balancing questions. We're not just trying to do happy talk. There were some young people I saw in DC, a brother and sister, that started an app that says it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to not be okay. We're not trying to fix people right now. We're trying to hold the space for what's real. So when somebody says something, write it down. And on both sides. So say we have a bunch of, well, these are all pretty much problems, and then these are all the positive things, right? But just make sure that you allow for people to have different opinions, right? If somebody has a different opinion in your group, you're like, oh, that's great. Maybe does somebody else have another opinion? We're trying to get out the real ideas. As a facilitator, you have to try not to answer the question yourself. Definitely on the introductions, do it first. It's a way of breaking the ice. But then if it's like quiet, you have to allow time for individual thinking. Maybe your group's just really thinking. Don't just start filling it up with all your answers, because you might take the good answers they were about to say and they're like, psh, I'm not going to talk because she's just going to talk and say what I was going to say anyway. So as a facilitator, you don't need to have the answers. You just get to ask the question and just wait. You're like, all right. So you just got to wait. And people will say something. 80% of our communication is through our body language. So on these questions, we put everybody on the spot, right? Mm-hmm. And on these ones, well, it's whoever feels comfortable participating, right? And if somebody is like pulling up a marker and ready to write down, they've got something to say. If not, and you ask them a question and they put their eyes down, it probably means they don't have something to say right now. Give them some space and then come back to them later. Mm-hmm. So just eye contact is your biggest tool. Oh, I kind of already said this. Be comfortable with silence. Slow down. All right. So if you want to take a good picture of that, I got a couple more to put up. And I think I'm just going to take down some of these ones. All right. So I've got 3 things on what are not to do to be a good facilitator. 1, you want to avoid calling out one individual. Right? Maybe there's a person in your group that's like messing around, doing something on their phone, not even paying attention, right? So you want to be like, hey, I'm going to call on them. So what do you think, blah, blah, blah. And they're going to be like, and maybe they're going to have just some kind of canned answer. You don't want to call somebody out. Just get the people that are participating. That person isn't participating, give them a chance later, right? So you don't get to just call out one person. That's where 80% of the communication is their body language. Maybe that person, you could ask them to help with the marker and be on a scribe. Typically, young people don't do this. Sometimes adults do. Avoid summarizing. Ask questions to elicit. One of my mentors taught me once that if you say what somebody else said, you take the power out of their words and you put it into yours. So let's say, what's one of our sample answers for this? Negative forces, problems that young people face in our schools and our communities. Somebody give me an example.
As you said before, people being fake.
So that's what, see, I just nodded. I wasn't like, oh yes, people being fake. I don't need to repeat what you said. I just let you say it. So it's just, and if I repeat it after everyone said something, it just kind of like sucks it out. So you don't repeat what people said. And then you avoid why questions. You don't ask people why. They say something, it's real. We don't need to get their whole background life story. You could really hit onto a soft spot maybe in their heart too, because the why could be a big story, a big reason why. right? We're going to have a crisis intervention team, and we'll have some kind of, last time we said, hey, I need a red marker, and that was a way of letting the crisis team know that somebody needed to just kind of be pulled out of the circle to have some time to debrief with a trusted adult. So if something like that happens, we've got a team of response, and I'm going to be milling around and you could come find me. But sometimes that gets triggered when somebody asks why, instead of just like, if somebody says it, it's real. We're going to keep track of which group is on the back of each flip chart, and we'll have them coded. So if there is a person who is struggling, we'll be able to find them in their school and connect them with resources. So you don't need to ask why. If they say it and if they've experienced it, it's real to them. You could say, if maybe it's offensive to somebody else, you could say, could you tell me a little bit about your experience?
Hey, Courtney, that was awesome. But there's a couple of additional things that we want to remind people. Number one, we have an amazing emotional support team that will be available. So if you see any of the students that are at the conference that appear that they're getting emotional or would like to talk to somebody in further, all the adults need to do is wave to any of our volunteers, and we're going to get them help, and we're going to help any of the students there. Also remember, as you go back to your schools, not only do we have business community leaders and schools and counselors to get involved, but we also have all of our law enforcement community. They're here because they care, and they want all the schools to know when you implement this and roll this out, we're here to help you in any way we can.